I smile.
Exactly.
I smile with Louis, so maybe you're just not making me happy, son.
Right there, you go. Well, we're live, by the way. Good times. Good times. Oy vey. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Do you want to share anything, or you just want to get started?
Wait a minute, are we really live?
We are really live right now.
No, we weren't. That whole time?
No, not the whole time.
Oh,
For the
okay.
last, I don't know, for the last 25 seconds, we have been
Oh,
live.
you bastard! You put me in situations. Aren't you worried about what I'm going to say?
No, not at all. Actually, not even the slightest.
My mother would be.
Well, I don't have to live with it, so they're gonna message you, not me. So it's like a car crash, man. I don't mind watching it. I don't want to be in it though.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Where am I putting this? I got nowhere to put this.
All right. Well, while you figure that out, I'm gonna go ahead and run the intro.
All right, let's go, man. Let's do the show.
Let's do it.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma Live. This, of course, is a Dharma Time hour, and he is the Dope Doctor. I'm the Dharma guy. It's not Tuesday. It is today's what, Wednesday?
Do not ask me.
Yeah, I don't even know, man. For those of you who tune into us on a consistent basis, you have not seen us on a consistent basis, actually.
Right.
Monday we did our couch live, so by all means check us out on YouTube or any of your podcasting platforms. We talked about alcohol on the couch live.
That's right.
Today is our first Dharma Time we've had, I think, in a few weeks. So we apologize for that. Thank you for sticking with us. Should be a good one. Hopefully moving forward, we'll start to get a little bit more consistent, but things have just been kind of crazy and hectic. We did have our golf tournament for the Now Matters More Foundation. Was it 2 weeks ago now? And or no, it was a little over a week ago, right? Can't remember now. It's all running together. Either way,
first Monday of the month of April.
Yes, whatever day that was. And it went well. A lot of people showed up, had a great time. Thank you for everybody who attended and supported. As always, every year it's a great time. So, and some of our listeners actually, Marissa, she made it by, which was cool.
Some Marissa.
Yeah, hey Marissa. Anyways,
wait. Before we start, I just came back from visiting Marissa.
You did. You're in New York at the moment, right? Or New Jersey?
I'm in Jersey again now.
Right.
But apparently Marissa doesn't really live in New York. It's more like the Carolinas, bro. I mean, seriously, it's Long Island. And let me tell you something. Long Island is a long freaking island. I mean,
maybe they should call it Long Island.
And she's at the very end of Long Island. It's called what is it called? Island Park, something like that. What is it, Marissa? Island what? And had some great pizza there. Got to give a shout out to those.
Okay.
Jack's Pizza out there in Island Park.
Okay.
I think it's called Island Park. Am I wrong, Marissa? Is it Island Park?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to help you on that.
She's watching us live here on Facebook Live, so
yes,
maybe she could tell. But I met her mom and her grandmother, and it was beautiful to meet them. They were all awesome.
Right.
But yeah, man, she's not in New York. And next time Marissa says New York, no, she's like in it, brother. It's like a rental homes. It looks like rental homes, like in a vacation spot. She's in a beautiful little vacation spot on Long Island. She's just fine.
Right on.
She's fine. She, give her a little bit of weather and she's fine. She's got the water right there. I can see the water from her house. I can literally see the bay from her house. So,
right on.
Island Park is what it says. Yeah, Island Park.
I can see the water from my house, but it's like a retention pond.
That's how she acted. That was, and it wasn't. It's the bay.
Right.
Dude, I passed Coney Island on the way there. I took the Verrazano Bridge. So I saw Coney Island. I saw that in Brooklyn. I didn't see it, but I could see the Ferris wheel thing. I could, whatever, all the little games over there to the left.
Right on.
When I was driving home. Anyway, I'm back here in Jersey now. So let's. I'm here to do the show with you, Dharma guy.
Sure. And real quick, since you already kind of mentioned it, let me go ahead and finish the plug there. Okay. Future reference for anybody who wants to watch live and comment live, they could do so on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube live. Look up Dope and Dharma, and you can communicate with us and give us your thoughts live during the show. Right. And if you want to just listen to us on your own leisure, you can do so through any of the major podcasting platforms. Just look up Dope and Dharma, and we'll be there. So we have a plethora of topics scheduled for Dharma Time. I've been pretty good about just writing things down lately. Matter of fact, I'm the one who came up with alcohol for the Couch Live, which I'm sure there's going to be a part 2, by the way, for those of you who watched it.
As long as we do a show, it'll be a part 2.
Yeah. So anyways, I sent him a list of topics today, and he didn't pick one. So I just picked number 1. So
I was driving, sir. I was driving back
Sure.
from Island Park, and I had to avoid every. I was in traffic the entire time, Trinity. The traffic here in New York is no joke.
Yeah. Well, I was in traffic too. I'm going to say it probably resembles me in traffic picking up my kids, because the car pickup line is ridiculous.
Right.
So,
well, I went through a lot of that too, though, because they let school out right before I got to the hotel.
So you feel my pain, sir.
So every little school, and there's a lot of PS this and PS that. All these schools have weird names. You know? Nice. And I don't know what I guess public school number. They got real lazy with some school naming over here in New York, man. It's like PS34, PS35. It's like, really?
Nice. Well,
couldn't think of somebody to name it after.
They come back with stories of statues of liberty and all sorts of. You come back with signs for school posts.
Because man, they're annoying, man. And let me tell you something. I now know why Orlando has such horrible drivers. I now know why Florida has such horrible drivers. Because it's them. It's them. Nice. I see where they get it from.
Can't you take like the subway? Isn't that what people do up in New York? Is they take subways all the time, or taxis or something? I've never been there, but I mean that's what you see all the time on TV and movies and stuff.
I have a rental car. What the hell am I going to do that for? I like my own stuff, bro. I
hear that.
Have you not seen the videos about what happens on the subway and around the subway?
Yes, I have seen videos.
Yeah, you know what never happens in my rental cars, Trinity? Nobody pisses in my rental car.
Nobody stabs you.
Nobody stabs me in my rental car.
I'm going to say that's probably a good thing. You can mark that in the win category.
Right. I did subway system in Mexico City, man. That's enough for me, bro. That's, you know what I mean? I lived through that. I'm good. I've experienced a subway system. I don't need to ever experience.
Wait, they have a subway system in Mexico?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They have a train system
there. Anyways. All right, so let's get started.
All right.
So for those of you who read the title there, you probably already know what the title is going to be for the shows. But for those of you who are listening,
where is it? I gotta find it somewhere here.
Yeah, it's called Normalize Compliments.
Okay.
And so what made me think of it, right, is I don't know. Compliments feel
there you
good.
Go. That's a good.
Yeah, exactly. Compliments feel good to give and receive. It's one of those things where it's like when you say something to somebody that's nice and it brightens their day, it's like a good feeling. Like, hey, I brightened that person's day. Right. And when somebody says something to you, or they acknowledge something you've done that's positive, it feels good to be noticed, right?
Right.
But what I've noticed is, at least lately, it just feels like we, the collective we, are very reluctant to give compliments anymore. Like we're really quick to criticize and to judge and to nitpick, but we're very slow to want to compliment. And I've spoken to people like in even spousal situations, right? Because you would think in a spousal situation, like that person should pump you up more than anybody. But you would think. I prefaced that by you would think. However,
okay, I'm ready.
I've heard them talk, in even past relationships of mine. You know, I've heard them talk, and they always say like, "I don't want to pump their head up," you know, and I don't want their head to get too big. Where it's like they feel that their job is to somehow keep them, you know, grounded per se.
Right.
Which, in theory, I understand, but if not you, then who? Right? Like, if you're not going, like, because I blow my wife's up all the time. She doesn't blow mine up all the time. But I'll tell her she's good at this or good at that or things of that nature. But I think in general, I'm noticing that compliments are just kind of hard to come by these days. And I don't know why. Like, I have my thoughts, obviously, but that's why we're having a show. I would like to see us, the collective us, normalize compliments again. Like, I don't see the harm in being kind to people and giving compliments.
Well, maybe because it's illegal. I mean, you'll get down to the HR office. You can't.
It's harassment.
You can only compliment. Well, I can't even say same sex anymore. You can only compliment those who identify equally to you.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I still give them, right? Like, I will still, if I'm in line at a grocery store or something, if there's somebody around me smells good, or if they look nice, I'll tell them, "Oh man, you smell really good," or
What are you,
something.
Joe Biden or something like this?
No, I'm not sniffing hair. But see, that's the thing. I don't think that's a weird thing, right? Like, there's people out there who, matter
No,
of fact,
I'd say,
it
but
pops in my head.
only the guys, only the guys. I will never.
Uh,
I'm not telling women they smell good, but I do tell guys, hey, bro,
I'm
whatever you're
guilty of
wearing is
that.
working, bro. That's good.
At the Orange County Drug Free Coalition, there's been many a times where I was in the office and Eileen was in there, and I told her, like, "Dang, that smells fantastic. It smells like cotton candy or something. I don't know what it was."
Safe.
But
picked a safe one.
Yeah, it was safe. But my thing is just I don't want to shy away from compliments, because once again, they feel good to give and they feel good to receive. And so I don't like the fact that we're in this weird time where we're so reluctant to give compliments, but we're so quick to give criticisms, right? Like, have you noticed that?
Well, no, I definitely noticed it. I think I'm getting a compliment right now. What is Marissa saying right there?
Which one? So,
Put
well,
that
she
up there.
said, first off, she says, stay away from the subways. I went once, never again. Trains are fine, but subways, no way.
Right.
And then she followed that up with, my 82-year-old Nan had a ton of compliments for Lou. She has a crush. Oh, look at that.
See? I want to know a compliment. What was the compliment? Give me a compliment.
Oh, boy. Are they, make sure you keep them PG rated here. Who knows?
She's gonna make me drive back over there. I'm fixing it. Show up there.
So I think you touched on something, though, right? Like, I think that I think it's an easy excuse. I don't think it's the reason, but I think it's an easy excuse to say, "Hey, I don't want to be considered like I don't want to be thought of as harassing or whatever." I think that's an easy excuse. I don't think that's the reason, personally.
I don't think that's. I do. Wait a minute. I don't think that's the entire reason, but I do think that there are a lot of people that may have at one time been okay with giving compliments that are a little bit more reserved.
Sure, I could see that. Yeah, no, I'm not saying it doesn't play a role.
Yeah,
I just don't think that. I think
because it does for me. It plays a role for me. I'll pick safe ones. Like, sure. Eileen is a perfect safe one. Like,
right.
For a safe one, I don't mind, but I really kind of stay away from all that. Not only because it's maybe workplace inappropriate, I guess. I also stay away from certain compliments because as Dana has gotten older, my wife Dana has gotten older, she gets a little bit more insecure about compliments to women as well. And it's not her fault. It's just where she's at, right? Where
sure,
she likes them, but she's not a big fan of me giving them. And so that also played a role. But I probably did too many back in the day, is what it is. I mean, it was my fault. I'm sure it was my fault. So I kind of just hold back. So there's a lot of things, but I think what you're saying is maybe culturally we have changed a little bit. Yeah. That we're a lot more nitpicky on negatives. We're quick to point out people's faults, but not necessarily their positives. And I agree with you.
Yeah, I would, and I think that so the male to male compliments, I think that the belief for many guys is that it's somehow weak to try to compliment another man. I would also say
pause.
Oh gosh,
look at that.
Okay, so Marissa commented that apparently her Nan said, going on and on about how good looking you are and regal. I don't know if I would ever call you regal, but all right, we'll go with it.
See, because you were just saying that it's difficult for a man to get. See, you can't.
I don't know when I look at you, I don't think regal.
You can't see it. You really can't see it.
But that's okay.
No. Look, take a hard look, Trini. I mean, like, yeah. Look at me, Trini. Look at me. Look at my eyes. Look at my eyes.
Right.
Just kidding.
Well, I would say that.
Thank you very much to her. And by the way, I like them old, man. So that's not a negative.
There you go. So I would say that I think for men, oftentimes, if you're not secure in your own masculinity and who you are, I think that you can view it as a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think there's a subset of men who think that it is, to use a slang term, I guess, in today's world, they would think it's gay to give another man a compliment.
Right.
And maybe when I was younger, I would think of that. I don't know if I've ever had a period of my life where I thought that. Thankfully, the men that I'm surrounded with also don't really seem to be that way. Like, I don't have a lot of those friends, and I haven't had a
Right.
lot of those friends. Like, a lot of the people that I've gravitated to, we've all supported one another, right? Like, I've
Yeah.
had, so I guess I just don't participate in those friendships at all. When I was younger, I had probably a few of them, but I kind of left those behind. And the friendships I'm talking about are the ones where you cut each other down all the time,
Right.
where you make fun of each other. That doesn't mean that like you and I don't bust each other's balls every now and then,
Right.
but it's a different kind. It's like a playful. It's not a insulting, right? Like I don't
Right.
think you and I've
Right.
ever insulted one another, but we've messed with one another.
Right.
And so those relationships, I kind of left those behind. Of the ones where you're the very juvenile, making fun of somebody, almost bullying them, like picking on them and stuff like that. Like I did when I was younger, like when I was a kid, but
Oh,
as
yeah.
I've grown into adulthood, I kind of like I don't have those types of friendships.
Right.
Instead, I have the types of friendships where we pump each other up, almost like a degrading humor, right? Like where where you'll almost put yourself below that other person to pump them up. Those are the kind of friendships we have for the most part. And for
I
that,
think,
I'm grateful.
yeah.
I don't know how that happened. I'm glad I did. I'm glad that I've never felt like a competitiveness with my friends.
Right.
Like it's one of those things where I've always felt that like great recognizes great. You know what I mean? Like if you're my friend,
I like
well,
that.
if you're my friend, you're not my friend because I think that you're like a loser. Like I don't choose loser friends. So for
Right.
friends that you have qualities that I like and that I admire. So
Right. Right.
why would I put you down? Like it just doesn't make sense, I guess, right? Like but I do believe there are a lot of men out there that don't have those kinds of relationships. I think there's a lot of men out there that have a very competitive,
Right.
very bullyish, kind of like constantly vying for control type of relationship with their friends.
Oof. It's a great question. I don't know. I'm not the kind that counts other people's money. Well, I don't count other people's happiness either. I don't count other
Right.
people's. I guess I don't watch that stuff. I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Right.
How other people live their life necessarily.
Sure.
What I will say is that I've been very fortunate to always have the kind of friends that love busting my balls, but only because it's kind of like around the same theme, like like the golden child, the golden boy, like
Sure.
because I have been very fortunate in my life. Yes, I'm a very lucky person. I'm a very blessed person. So I've learned to accept that. Like I get
Right.
it, I get it. But it's always out of good friendship. It's in good humor. It's in good
Sure.
taste or whatever. And I think I'm a good complimenter. I think I've complimented you, and I
Sure.
think you compliment me. And I think it's a respect thing. It's like, if there's something about you that I think is really cool, or I want you to know. I
Yeah.
want you to be confident. I love being around confident people. I don't like being around people that lack confidence or are too insecure, because then you got to watch everything you say and do. And
Yes. Yes.
and I'm not good at that.
Yeah. I'm not. Oh, I am so
That
not good at that.
the biggest difficulties that I've ever had with Dana are in the insecurity range.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is when she's secure and feeling good about herself, and that has a lot to do with how I treat her. Then boom, we're good.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing too many things that help that insecurity, blow up a little bit, then it's not comfortable. And so, as a person, as a partner, you can either continue to scratch that surface and make the person more insecure, and therefore just like a self-fulfilling prophecy of
Right.
negativity, or you can take ownership at least of some of the damage being done and back away a little bit, and start giving more compliments and see if that works. It may not always work immediate, but if you do enough of it, like you're talking about, it becomes more of the norm rather than the
Right.
every once in a while, then the person becomes a better person for you and for themselves.
Right.
And when a person is better for themselves, they usually are better for you anyway.
Yeah, I think I can't help but to feel, and maybe I'm way off base here, but just trying to think of why it doesn't happen more, especially even in relationships.
Right.
Um, I do believe that there's an element of insecurity, right? Like somehow if I give you a compliment, make you feel good, that I'm less than. It feels like that's what it is.
You
Do you
think that's
think
what it
so?
is?
I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
like
I think that we I think we're highly sensitive as we know our negatives, right? And depending on
Yeah, I don't have any. So
and again, again, it's easier to personalize this and talk about things that are best known to me. Therefore, I'm not offending anybody or not doing any of that stuff. But in my life, I'm able to go out here and I'm constantly performing for others, right? I'm constantly doing stuff for others. So I get my accolades, right? I get my attaboys, I get my accolades, I get all that stuff. So whatever's out there to feed my ego, I get it fed, right? Whereas I happen to have a partner who doesn't go out like that, right? So it requires me to be that feeder of the ego, me to be the feeder of compliment, right?
Sure.
So I think we have to also look at that. We have to understand that however we get our cup filled doesn't necessarily mean the other person has the same availability to that filling, right? And so you might have to take the ownership of that. And I think, at least in my case, I have to take a lot of ownership into filling that cup, because it's easy to become insecure when she doesn't get the happy, smiley, loving, fun-loving guy. She has to deal with the guy that's, drained from a trip of, an entire week of performing and doing things. And then I just want to sit there in silence and do nothing. And
eat your chips.
Right. Eat my potato chips. Right. It's easy to look at that like a negative and be like, oh, so you don't want to spend time with me. You don't want to talk to me. I'm not good enough, or I'm not fun enough, or, you'd rather do that with Trinity, but you won't do that with me, kind of thing, what I mean? And it's like, no, it's not that. It's just that, I can be 100% me at a low level with you because you're going to love me through my low level. Whereas that's not the me that they want. They require a different me, and I have to be that me for them. For you, I can be all me's, and that's just the reality of life, man. You know what I mean?
Sure.
When people go like, I'm just myself all the time. Well, not everybody wants you as yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I mean, there's you got to edit a little bit of yourself so that you can be the person that some people need you to be. For instance, when I go to a restaurant, right? What I'm looking for in a server is a server that's there for me.
Sure.
I'm not looking for a server that is trying to make a political statement for themselves, or a fashion statement for themselves, or some sort of, that I can read their insecurity and problem and life issues. I didn't go out with Dana to go to a place for that experience. Right.
Sure.
So I think what some people are forgetting is they feel like everywhere they go, they have to be who they are.
Right.
But who you are is a server right now. And that has a definition.
Right.
As a server, you're there to serve the customers in the experience that they chose to have, not the experience you want to give them. And so that's just a little example of what I'm saying. I think there's too many people out there that are so busy trying to show the world who they are and want you to cower to who they are. They're forgetting their role to all the rest of us.
Right.
You might have a role to the rest of us that is irrelevant to what you want to show me right now. Now, if I'm paying you to be you, then be you. Right. But I'm not paying you to be you. I'm paying you to, can you please give me some more ketchup? Because I'm out of ketchup.
I can see that. No, I can see that.
Sometimes it's that simple. Sometimes it's just that simple, Trinity. And when you say that we don't give compliments, it's because we're always looking at how someone is disrespecting us. We are all so damn insecure, and we're being told that our insecurities are validated because the rest of the world needs to treat you how you want to be treated. That's not true at all. Right. That's a non-factual statement. Yeah. The whole world doesn't have to treat me how I want them to be treated, because let me tell you something. I haven't even treated myself 100% the way I want to be treated. And there's a lot of us out here that don't even love ours. Yeah, we don't know how to treat our own selves. We've lied to ourselves more than anybody else has lied to us. We've put ourselves in bad situations more than other people have put us in bad situations. We have misled us more than anybody has misled us. We have stolen from ourselves more than anyone else has ever stolen from us. Yet we want to kind of tell you how to treat. No, I don't know how to treat me. Therefore, I can't tell you how to treat me. But what I will do is I'll continue to get as best as I can in myself so that I can be self-fulfilled. And the more I'm self-fulfilled, then I'm able to just be there to serve you as a listener to you, or as a person in your life that you need me to be. And what I mean by that, Trinity, is a long time ago, after I got away from philosophy books because it was driving me crazy in college, right? So I got away. I stopped reading in college because I read too much and it just drove me nuts. All that Nietzsche stuff and John Paul Sartre and No Exit, that drove me nuts. So I flipped it to, if this is all fake and phony and everyone is just a figment of my imagination, then I'm going to treat you as if I'm just a figment of your imagination. Therefore, I'm not here to make it negative for you. I'm here to make it a positive experience for you. Because I'm not even real. I only exist if you allow me to exist in your life. Thank you for blessing me with some existence, and then I'm going to be there to serve you. And by doing that, it's a trickle-down effect of how to treat people, and it just makes me a happier person.
Yeah, that makes sense. Real quick, we got 2 comments that I want to put up there. Marissa put one that said, one of the best compliments I got was last year when I was on the show, and you told me Dolly and Zoya read my book and how it impacted them. That was from Marissa.
Yeah, and then very true. That's a true statement.
And then Michael Maynard, what's up, man? He said because you end up in human resources if you gave compliments.
That's right.
Like, so let me address that, right? Because like I said, I think that's the convenient thing to say.
Well, you ain't got a job, Trinity, so like how do you know?
But I did used to work in a workplace before I became an entrepreneur.
I know, but we don't have human resources that serve monkey.
But there's compliments that you can do though, right? Where like, hey, you have an artistic eye, or hey, you're good. Not everything has to be, oh, that dress looks good on you today. Like, there are other compliments where you can acknowledge somebody's skill set or somebody's vibe that they bring to the table. Like, hey, you're a really optimistic person. It's a pleasure to be around you. Like, there's compliments that you can give that aren't creepy, right? Like, not everything has to be an innuendo, or not everything has to be a physical one either. Like, there's people out there who, like, there's people out there I've had in my life that I've interacted with that just like are a positive force. It's just like, dang, I always feel good when I'm around you, man. Like, you're just a really positive person. Thanks for that.
Right.
Like, there's compliments that you can give to somebody that aren't or could not be misconstrued.
Well, wait a minute. But on that same note, Trinity, you said it really good to me one time when you were saying that, for instance, when it's opposite sex kind of compliments, that you said that it's okay if they find you attractive or want to sleep with you. Like, you can say just about anything, but if they find you ugly or unattractive or something like that, then you can't even say anything positive. And so that's the truth. So you might have been blessed by a little bit of that.
Maybe.
You're a good-looking guy. You're a big guy. You've probably always have gotten positive attention from the opposite sex. So it's probably been easier for you to give compliments than some other men. I mean, there's other men out there that have probably never been able to give a compliment. For instance, like I can give compliments like this, but then I put on my Jeffrey Dahmer glasses. And I put my now the same compliment is like,
you're giving off cannibal vibes here.
I want to eat you like with some fava beans.
Yeah.
I want to eat you or something. It's not the same compliment, Trinity.
I just refuse to believe that everything always boils down to sexuality, right? Like, I'm not saying it doesn't.
Apparently it does, Trinity. Apparently everything is about sexuality.
It's possible. Maybe I'm just naive in that situation, I guess. But I'd like to think that you can give compliments that aren't, like I said, you have a coworker who's maybe really good at, I don't know, man, typing. Like, wow, you're a really fast typer. That's awesome. I can't type that fast. I don't see how that's a sexual thing, right? Like, I think there are compliments to be given that aren't physical in nature or sexual in nature. Like, I think there's vibes that people bring to the table. There's skill sets that people bring to the table that I think if you acknowledged would make them feel phenomenal and not come off creepy or not come off like you're trying to jump them,
Right. I want to know what Maynard meant then, because Maynard's watching and listening on Facebook Live, and he put, I didn't mean it that way. So now I'm more curious as to what he really meant so that we can address
Sure, absolutely. And then Marissa followed hers up with there's also the sexist element where it's okay for women to compliment men, but men get in trouble faster when they compliment women nowadays.
Very true.
Maybe Louis should have felt violated by my grandmother.
No, I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
like I said, I don't disagree
Me-
that there's an element of harassment, sexuality.
Right.
Like I get that there's an element, but it feels like a cop out, dude. Because like I said, there are other compliments that are nowhere near sexuality.
Right.
Like I said, hey, you're a fast typer, or hey, you've got a really keen eye for that.
Right,
Like,
right. Well, when I compliment you, that's not about sexuality. I mean,
yeah.
it's,
So
it's,
I mean, I think that's an easy excuse to use to justify not complimenting people. I think it's an easy excuse to use to justify not being kind to the people around you. There's kind and then there's hitting on, and I think that we can be kind without crossing lines with people. Like, I would, like, for instance, I would never compliment a woman on, like, wow, that dress really fits you nice today. Like, no, that's
that's
wildly inappropriate. Like, what are you doing?
I'll
Even if I
compliment their
was,
shoes. I love the shoes.
well, yeah, like, even if I
And
was,
hair, like Marissa and her mom and her grandmother all had great hair.
yeah,
Hair is easy.
like, as a single man, I wouldn't even make that kind of a compliment
Right.
because it's like, what are you doing, bro?
Right.
Like, so I believe that there's compliments that can be given that aren't anywhere near inappropriate at all. And those compliments would make the person feel good. Now, once again, you don't make the compliment and then hang around and stay. Like, no, you just in casual, hey man, that's really awesome, and then move on with your day. And the thing is, we think these things, right? Like, I do believe inside we think these compliments. We acknowledge, we see the greatness of the people around us. We just choose to not say anything.
Right.
Right? Like, we all see it. We all have like a coworker that's just really good at what they do. We all have a friend or a relative, a neighbor who's just like really good at something. Like, we all have these innate abilities or innate talents that just set us apart just a little bit, and we see that. When was the last time you acknowledged that? When was the last time your friend, your coworker, your relative, that you know that they're really good at something or they take pride in something? Because come on, man, we all love to talk about ourselves, right? So we all have somebody that has said something. We know what's important to them.
Right.
So when was the last time you acknowledged it? When was the last time you have that friend or that colleague that you acknowledge what you know is important to them and just give them a little bit of a positivity? Just say, hey, man, that's really cool. When was the last time we did that?
I love your artistic design, Trinity. I like when I needed you to put some things together for the golf tournament. You did really good with putting some of that stuff together.
And you know what? It feels good to hear that. Right? Like, it feels good. Like, it didn't cost you anything.
Right.
And it number one, it felt good, right? To hear that. It makes me more inclined to want to do it again. Right. Which, I would not recommend doing that from a manipulative perspective. If you're listening to this right now, don't do it to get what you want. But it does help.
Right.
But no, it definitely, it's a currency that we have that helps keep us going. Right. Like, don't underestimate the power of positivity. Like,
don't take someone for granted.
Yeah, man. Like I said, positive things move mountains, man. Like, every revolution that's ever taken place wasn't negative. It started out with positivity. It started out, we can do better. We can do this. We can overcome this. I brought it up before in previous shows, but like dogs, we don't train them by rubbing their nose and stuff. You train them by positive. You train them by giving them a treat and rewarding them for doing something.
Right.
If your spouse wants you to do something, they get so much further by giving you a compliment or a positive reinforcement from it. So, like, we're fully aware in every aspect of life, positivity gets you so much further. There's cliches, right? Like, more bees with honey than you do vinegar. Like, we're all aware of it. But we don't seem to put it into practice. We seem reluctant to perform it, and it sucks because I think we get so much more done. I think we'd be happier as a society if we just, just like you said, don't take it for granted.
Right. I think one of the issues also, though, are that some people are they get offended by certain compliments. I'm not talking sexual comments. I'm talking about even if you say, "Man, that was really smart of you to say," and they say, "Well, what do you think I was dumb?"
Sure.
Or man, you really look really nice today. What do I usually look like a slob? You know, like
You
so.
can't do anything
So,
about that though.
so what I'm
This
saying,
is
I know, but
yeah,
what I'm saying is, you also have to be, I guess, aware
sure,
of how you compliment.
sure,
If you phrase a compliment in a way that is extremely surprising to you, in a negative way, then that could be problematic. Now you
sure.
can't help it if the person is just coming at it in insecurity. That's not on
Yeah,
you.
that's
That's
not
on
on you at
them.
all.
But I have heard people phrase compliments, especially like older people, like my mother, um, or my mother-in-law. Like sometimes when I hear them compliment, they're actually jabbing when they're complimenting, and they don't hear the jab part. Like
Sure,
you know what I mean? It's like you think you were complimenting, but you really weren't.
sure.
You know, like when you're saying, "Oh, I'm surprised this is clean." You know, it's that's like what you're really saying is it wasn't
It's a
clean
very
before.
passive aggressive compliment. Yes,
Yeah. You know you get you know what I mean.
right.
That's a different compliment. You
Sure,
know, so you got to be mindful of that.
sure,
I like where you're going with it when you're just talking about how as a society it's important just to make other people feel good. I love making people smile. I think that's how I fill my own cup, to be honest with you. So
sure.
maybe it is self-serving, and I think if we knew how to feel good, if we knew how to make ourselves feel good, we would do more of it, right? Well, I know
Right.
how to make me feel good. I know how to fill my
Sure.
cup. How I fill my cup is when you're happy, I'm happier. You know what I mean? So I get from that. So yeah, I'm giving, but I'm
Right.
getting. Don't think I'm not getting, because if I wasn't getting, I wouldn't give.
But
That
that's the thing is we do,
yeah,
whether we realize it or not.
right,
We all kind of
right,
get from giving.
right.
Like that's why
So
service is such a big deal.
right. So further along that line, if someone's being like mean, malicious, and hurtful, like you're saying in society right now, we're doing a
Yeah.
lot more jabs than it's because we're getting a good feeling from that. We
Sure.
are we are actually getting a reward from that. And it's like, wow, man, you're getting off on picking people apart, finding flaws in people to the point where you feel better
Well, that's the thing.
about whoever and whatever you are.
That's the
And I
thing.
have to say whoever and whatever you are, because you're allowed to be whoever and whatever you
Yeah.
want to be.
Yeah. Well, that's an actual thing, right? There's a study they did over what was it, Germany? I can't remember. There's a name for it of taking pleasure in the misfortunes of others.
Right.
I can't remember what it is, but they've actually done the studies, and so like uh, you actually brought up a good point, right? And my son,
Thank you. I'll take the
I,
compliment.
I've had to had I had this conversation with my son not too long ago because he's young and he's saying things and he's seeing things, and I don't think if we're going to be honest, we can't ignore that for some situations or some instances there is some pleasure derived in calling somebody out, right? Like there's some pleasure derived in criticizing somebody. um
Yeah.
we all like to pretend like there isn't, but let's be honest,
Yeah.
there is, right?
Right.
In some situations it does feel good to jab somebody real quick.
Right.
However, I would argue that the undeniable benefit that you get from that doesn't measure up at all
Right.
to the benefit that you get from genuinely making somebody feel good.
Right.
Right? It's like the small one, the small high versus big high kind of a thing, right? Like the would you rather have a penny or would you rather have a dollar, right? So yeah, jabbing somebody might be a penny's worth of feel good, but making somebody feel good about themselves is more of like a dollar. Like it's going to fill your cup a lot faster to be positive with somebody than it is to nitpick somebody.
Right.
Now, granted, it's easier to nitpick, right? It's easier to sit back and judge and criticize other people than it is to pump them up.
Right.
But once again, I think some of that has to do with insecurities. I think
Right.
some of that has to do with if I put the spotlight on you and make you feel good, then somehow I'm not good enough. Somehow I'm less than. Somehow, and I think that's an insecurity we got to work on.
Right.
Right? Because I can pump people up without, like, two things can be true. Like you can be good at something doesn't mean I'm bad at it. It means I can also
Right.
be good at something.
Right.
And if I feel secure enough in where I'm at, I have no problem pumping you up because it doesn't mean that I'm less than. It just means that I'm acknowledging, man, that was really good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I may need a few pumps. You never know. You know what I mean? So
We all do.
yeah.
That's the thing, right? Like, look around. As a society, we're not good, man. As a whole, we're really not happy. All the Pew studies that come out show that we're just really not happy. We are so disconnected with people, and that is a buzzword, but it's buzzword for a reason. Connection is extremely important with our level of happiness and fulfillment. The less connected you are to the people around you, the more depressed you feel, the more angry you feel, the more alone you feel. Whereas inversely, the more connected you are, the happier you feel. Like your circumstances didn't change, your level of connection changed.
Yeah, you remember the
ahead.
Janet Jackson song, "What Have You Done for Me Lately"?
Yes.
I remember when that came out, and when that came out, it was almost like it was kind of funny, right? Because it was like it was a segment of our society that would act like that. That we were kind of joking, like, guy, when you're feeling like that sometime, or there's people that feel like that sometimes,
Sure.
right? That's more the norm now. That song has become more of a mantra. In other words, where I'm going with that is like there were people that stayed in really bad marriages for generations, right?
Yeah.
So we came up with a basic cultural ideology that you can leave. You don't have to stay in it.
Right.
And so that became an option more than it used to be.
Sure.
And then it went from being an option to becoming the norm. To the point
expectation almost.
Right. To now, it's unusual to be married. So when I go out and I say, this June I will have 30 years marriage, people are like,
yeah, it's impressive.
And that's just in 30 years impressive, because 30 years ago when we got married, that was the norm.
Yeah.
That wasn't the impressive part.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now it's impressive. And so in that time frame of 30 years, what that's saying is that we went into connections understanding that if you don't do for me lately, what have you done for me lately, becomes a negative or becomes uncomfortable for me or annoying, I'm going to disconnect. So our connection really isn't a connect. It's not welded. Like there's a big difference between a weld, right?
Sure.
And a little spot weld, like a little, like a TIG weld, like it just has the little spots. You could break that weld, but when you do a really good weld, and I know I'm probably using the wrong analogy for most people, but when you weld something really good together, it doesn't break. And then I'll give you a good example. I guess because Maynard's on it kind of brought up this one. Remember my motorcycle Trinity, how it had the handlebars? It went like that, right?
Yeah.
And the whole danger of even though I like them, even though I like those handlebars, I wanted them specifically like that. The danger of handlebars like that is the weld, because whenever you have a weld at a point where if you hit something, they could break. Right.
Sure.
Now you don't have,
you're screwed.
Right. Whereas a straight bar, you didn't have that issue. So a lot of people that ride bikes would never ride with the kind of handlebars that I had on it, because of the weld in that spot. You don't want to just be riding along and all of a sudden, without even hitting something, the weld goes away and you have no control over the bike now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that's the kind of thing. I think we go into relationships like that where we don't look for the solid bar of a relationship. We get in these things knowing it's completely flawed. It's probably not going to last. We're not going to like each other in the future, but it's good for right now. So let's just enjoy it right now. And then when we're done with each other, we just, get away.
Well,
and that's kind of way. There's so many options out there now, because you're not just, because now we have 90-day fiance. So really, when you get done with your town and your state and your country, you can just get them from another country now. So your options have grown tremendously.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, and I don't know if this is the right show to go into it further or not. So maybe I'll just touch on it. But there is a transactional nature to everything, right? And I think that can go too far in either direction, right? Because everything is transactional, whether we want to admit it or not. At its baseline, it's all transactional.
Yeah,
I'm giving, and I'm expecting to receive,
and that's so harmful.
It is harmful. If you don't put it in its right light, right? Like if you focus more on what you're getting versus what you're giving, then it becomes harmful.
Right.
But if you're focused on what you're giving, it's not as harmful anymore, right? Like my relationship with my wife is transactional, right? Like we've had a mutual agreement of this is what I'm going to bring to the table, and this is what I'm giving you, and this is what you're giving me. But if I focus all my time on what she's not giving me
On the
versus
value bet, it's not a
yeah,
value bet.
yeah. So if I focus all my time, I'm like, well, hey, wait a minute, you're not giving me what we agreed upon,
Right.
and less time focused on, hey, am I giving you what?
Mm.
It's like the old adage I said, we spend so much time looking for Mr. and Mrs. Right, but we don't
Yeah.
spend any time trying to be Mr. and Mrs. Right.
Right.
The same kind of concept, right? Like, so like I said, I don't know if this is the right show for it or not, but everything is kind of transactional in nature, but we focus so much on the getting versus the
Yeah.
giving.
I think you need to write down transactional relationships. I think you need to write that down.
Sure.
So we can do a whole conversation.
I'm doing it right now.
Okay, good. Now, along that line, when you're talking about transactional, I think the biggest difference is I think that we go into relationships like it's a high risk bet rather than like a stock, like a penny stock, rather
Yeah.
than a mutual fund.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm in a marriage. I'm in a mutual fund relationship. You know, it's
Yeah.
going to have its ups and downs, but in the long run, it's a more secure route and good feeling,
Sure.
regardless. Whereas if I looked at it like if I was a day trader, if I was in a relationship like a day trader, I'm like, I like you today, but not tomorrow. And I like you today, not today, not today. You know what I mean?
That's stressful.
But that's I think a lot of connections are day trading type connections.
Yeah.
And
I can
I'm
see
more
that.
of a long-term friendship kind of guy. I don't if I interact with you, if we have a relationship, then this is a long-term deal for me. This
Sure.
is not a short-term relationship. To me, I don't need more friends. I don't need more of anything. So if we happen to now be friends at any point during my life, that's for life, man. We're good. We're good. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it. We could not talk for 20 years and we're still good. The
Yeah.
same as if we talked every day. Just so you all know that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a day trader. I am a mutual fund relationship person. I'm a mutual fund relationship everything. And I think that allows you to be a little bit riskier with compliments and to give people truth that they need to hear when they hear it. But I'm not just going to come out and just hurt feelings, because that does me no good, and that does you no good.
Yeah.
You know, I think what's important instead is to try to make you feel good about your life. However, I can help do that, because if going back to what you said earlier, if we're connected at all, it's because I find value in you as a person, and to the kind of value where I want you to feel really good and happy in your life, and I want you to enjoy it, because that gives me joy when you have joy. That makes me feel good when you're feeling good. And if you're hurting, and if you're in a bad place, I feel a little bit like I'm hurting and I'm in a bad place, and I want to be part of that nurturing and help you get out of it. Am I always good at that? I'm not always good at that, because I'm a human, so I get self-absorbed and I get distracted. Two
Sure.
things that are very normal for me. I see squirrels everywhere. I constantly what so. But if you're able to like hold my face, like, hey, I need your time right now. I need your time right now. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you, and
Sure.
and I'll be there for you. And that's kind of one of the reasons I went out to Long Island today, to be honest with you, because I wanted to show Marissa that she did a great thing, but she came to our golf tournament 2 years in a row.
Sure.
To me, that showed value. That showed that she values us. Well, I wanted to show, I value you too. I can go out of my way as well, and spend a little time with you. And that makes me feel good, and I hope it makes you feel good, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because I want you to feel appreciated. And that's my way of complimenting. That's
Right.
a form of compliment, going out of your way and doing something that you really don't have to do. I mean,
Yeah.
you really could live without doing it and probably still get what you're looking for, but that's not getting what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is people that know that if you really need me, I'm here, but you got to ask me. You got to really stop me and say, I need you right or something like that. It's just important, unfortunately.
Sure. Well, and actually, uh, based upon what you said, I think I know what next week's show is going to be off the list that I have here.
I already forgot your list. I just know
uh,
you read it, but
I
I
did
was
too.
trying not to hit kids at PS435 school or PS36
Well,
school.
I forget it too, which is why I write it down. Well, I say write, but I put it in my notes.
Yeah.
So I think next week's show, for those of you who are interested and want to tune in, um, the other key reason why I think that we choose to sometimes not give compliments is hidden resentments. I think we start to get resentful of people around us, whether we have a relationship with them or not, based upon what they have or what they're doing or what we don't have. And so I think so next week's topic is going to be other people's like jobs essentially is not to live up to your expectations. Like their purpose in life isn't to live up to what you think they should or shouldn't do. Um, so that will be next week that we'll talk further on. Having said that, the resulting resentments, I do think, are an additional reason why we're reluctant to give compliments and why we're so apt to give criticisms and judgments is because we'll have these resentments, right? We'll create this narrative and these expectations. And if you don't hit them, we can't get over our resentments long enough to give you a positive compliment because all we are seeing is all the quote unquote letdown, right? Like, and so, in other words, if I had this narrative in my head of what you're going to say, do, think, and feel, and you don't reach it, it's so easy to only see that when I look at you. I don't see all the positives because all I'm seeing is every letdown and every time you didn't meet my expectations. And so therefore,
I will let you down then. Trust me.
well, yeah, of course.
You better
Same.
put that as another show. Creating narratives. That's a whole other show in itself.
Yeah.
Creating
Yeah,
narratives.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So well, I think we could probably merge those two because I think they're similar as far as creating expectations. But either way, my point is if I'm resentful of you, then yeah, it's gonna be really hard to compliment you. It's gonna be really hard to give you a compliment when all I see is resentment. And I think that we have a lot of that right now. I think we have a lot of judgment and resentment that's causing us to be in a situation where we're really unable to see the positive for some people, right? Like I think for some people, there's insecurities that prevent us from giving compliments. I think for other people, there's just an inability to kind of figure it out and how to do it skillfully.
Right.
And I think there's other people who are just so negative and so full of resentment that the idea of giving a positive compliment just never occurs to them. So I think we're dealing with some of those like stages, if you will. And it makes me sad, right? It makes me sad for society. It makes me sad for my children. I don't want them to live in a world like that. Like, uh, um, do I think it's realistic that we're going to go back to like a Leave It a Beaver time? Probably not. But I don't think we need to live in a time where we're all out like dog eat dog world where it's like a den of vipers or something just constantly going at each other. I don't want them to live in that world either. And so I try to encourage my kids now to give compliments and to make people feel good. I try to tell my kids, hey, that was mean. You shouldn't say those types of things because you don't know what they're feeling, that kind of stuff. Um, because I do think connection is that important. The older I get, the more I realize how important connection is. So much of what we deal with that brings us down relates to connection that I think it would make your head spin if you really truly looked into it. Not you personally, but whoever's listening to this. Like, and I got to be honest, I'm one of the ones that severely underestimated how important connection is because we don't teach it, we don't talk about it. It's not really brought in the forefront. It's something that you kind of have to stumble upon yourself or figure out. But yes, as I've aged, I've realized that I've taken connection for granted my whole life.
Right.
I've never realized how important being connected to other people, how important it was. I really didn't. I mean, as I'm getting older, I'm just scratching the surface. Now that I have kids and I have a wife, like I'm starting to realize, like, wow, man, like I really enjoy connection. And when I don't have it, it really sucks. Right. Like I'm not in a good spot if I don't feel connected to people around me. Right. Like, and I it's always been that way. I just didn't know that's what it was. Right. Like I thought it was, oh, well, they're doing this. No, what it is I'm looking for connection. Like I don't feel connected. So therefore I'm angry. I'm bitter. I'm judgmental. I'm all these things. And as I start to get more connected, I start to realize, wow, I feel much better. Right. Like,
Right.
in the way for those of you listening, if you, to kind of illustrate my point, if you look around at the days, because we probably, like most of us, have days where we ebb and flow, right?
Mhm.
And so if you think about the days that was a quote unquote good day for you, did your circumstances really change that much?
Mm.
Like, you're still in the same job, you still make the same kind of money, you're still in the same relationship, probably, for the most part. You're like, so you're surrounded by all the same things. So what changed? Your connection. That day you felt more connected. How or why, I don't know. You'd have to look into that. But that day you might have felt more connected to the people around you, and so it was a good day. So it wasn't the tangible things around you that were causing it. It was, all those things didn't change overnight. The
Yeah.
only thing that changed, the reason why you ebb and flow, is some days you feel more connected and some days you don't. So in the days you don't feel more connected to people, a good way to start that connection by giving compliments, acknowledging the greatness of the people around you. You'd be surprised at how connected that will make you feel to them. Because the other thing that might happen is they might reciprocate. They might tell you back, oh wow, you too, or whatever, and it'll make you feel good, right?
Right. And before I answer to some of the things you say, first of all, what's up, Leo?
Hey, what's up,
joining
Leo?
us here on Facebook Live. Love when Leo jumps on there. And then, of course, Marissa had a pretty lengthy one right there.
Yeah, she said the opposite of connection is taught nowadays. The notion that everything is within you and you must be fully healed to attract what you want can be really toxic and lead to believing you don't deserve that job or relationship or whatever unless you're ready. None of us are ever fully ready for anything. No one is perfect.
Yeah, ready is that's
Yeah.
a loaded word. That ready word.
Yeah.
I want to go back to, because as soon as you said leave it to Beaver, you said go back to leave it to Beaver days, and I think that's one of the issues that I think that we struggle with as people, is we believe that was true.
Yeah.
What we forget is we looked at our lives and go like, oh, that must be those people that they had a life like that. No, let me tell you
No.
something. Nobody really had a life like that.
No.
The television used to show us what like, it was all fiction. I think that's kind of the problem with entertainment today. It's all reality. It's all focused on like showing our ugliness, our real, right?
Right.
And what we forget is, no, it used to be more of an escape to like be not real.
Right.
So for you younger people, and even in my age group, the Howdy Doody days didn't really exist the way that they said it did.
No.
Leave It to Beaver didn't really exist the way it did. By the way, if you looked at who wrote those shows, a lot of those writers were Jewish writers. You know darn well that wasn't their existence.
No.
A lot of those producers were Jewish guys. They actually did it to kind of show like what it could be. Like it was
Right.
like art. It's art. It was truly art. Like, instead of painting a picture of something that really is, they kind of like painted it in an abstract way and made it beautiful and funny and relatable by theme, but not necessarily by total substance. And I think that allowed us to disconnect also, Trinity, because nowadays what we're being taught by so many people is that nobody is representing you on TV. Well, guess what? TV never represented anybody.
Yeah.
I never felt represented on TV. Nobody saw themselves on TV. Nobody. Just so you all know, nobody really saw themselves on TV. No character really represented that. Now, we all found funniness in the theme, right, or the little humor, like, because there's always there's a commonality to what comedians come up with. Comedians say things that we all can kind of relate to, even though it's kind of a little bit different. But I think we get a kick out of just being so different and going like, I'm part of the non-norm. I'm in that minority group, or I am the underdog. And why? Because we always like underdogs. There's something about underdogs, man. There's something about being the underappreciated or the undervalued or the underrepresented. Guess what? Most people are that about something,
Yeah.
whether it's height, whether it's culture, whether it's religion, whether it's, preferences, whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody is underrepresented if you get to all the details, because that is part of what's allowing us to disconnect. You know what I mean? Even though we're thinking we're uniting people, we're in a time where we're really just pointing the fingers and showing people how ugly they are. And I'm this way because you're ugly. I'm allowed to be mean to you because you've been ugly.
Right.
You may not be being ugly today, but you were ugly yesterday. And then, let's say you said something ugly today. Oh, well, see, that takes away all the goodness you ever did. That is the same as if you're in a relationship. Like, let's say I went home and Dana said one negative thing to me. And I discounted the entire relationship because of that one thing she said.
Which people do, by the way.
That's my point. That's what we're doing. You know what I mean? And if you judge me by my past, it'd be like me going home, and she likes to do this sometimes. And if you look, I maybe it's a female and a male thing. I'll let you guys tell me if that's true. But she'll bring up stuff like 25 years ago, and I'll be like, "Ooh, that's unfair," because number one, I don't remember it. Number two, I doubt your reality there. I can't trust, because I don't remember it like that. I can't trust the validity of these facts. It's not like we have video of those facts, right? But when you bring up an argument 25 years ago to validate a behavior today, that's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous in a relationship. Guess what? It's ridiculous in society. Yep. So to bring up things that happened in the past to validate something you're doing today is just ridiculous. Because if you don't find that ridiculous, then ask yourself, is there something that you've ever said or done that if it got brought up today and your entire existence got judged upon that word, that statement, that action that you did today? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just imagine that. Just imagine for once that you had to have had a perfect existence in order to not be hated or judged upon.
Good luck.
Ridiculous. So we're teaching the wrong thing. And that's why it's so difficult. That's why we need more compliments more than ever, because it's so easy to show our ugliness. Matter of fact, we're showing our ugliness on our own by the videos we post and stuff like that. Because something that you post today that may be funny to you today, you might not find it funny 20 or 30 years from now. I've now been doing these shows for 24 years. There is no way that I'm going to go watch a show that I did 24 years ago, because I guarantee you I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to be upset about myself. I'm going to hear it and I'm going to go, "You're such an idiot, Louis. How could you ever have said that?"
Right.
Right?
I hope I have those shows, to be honest with you. That shows growth.
Because we've evolved.
Yeah.
We're allowed to have evolved. That's my point. You know what I mean?
Right on. Well, I know you got a hard stop because you got to get on the road. It's already after 5 for us.
I got to get my dancing suit on. I got to go dance like a monkey, Trinity. I got to get my suit on.
Exactly.
Gotta do my work.
So I'll leave everybody with this. First and foremost, thank you again for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It really does help. So I just say, look, man, compliments. It's a currency that's often forgotten. It's a very real currency that kind of helps. It helps the other person, the receiver, feel good. There you go, nice. Actually, I have those.
This is yours.
Is it really? I have a set of those.
Marissa gave it to you.
Oh, okay.
I'm bringing it to you. So next year when I see you again at the golf tournament, I'll give it to you.
Exactly. Right on. But
I didn't mean to cut you off. So
no, it's all right.
I just disrupted your whole.
No, it's all good. No, the basic thing I was just saying was just it's a currency that makes both the receiver and the giver feel good. It connects you to the people around you. There's nothing wrong with putting a smile on somebody's face, but there's nothing wrong with making that person feel good for just that snippet of time. There's nothing wrong with being the source of good feeling for other people. And then if you're known as the person that's doing that, you're going to get it back tenfold, and then you're going to feel good. And so you're not only going to feel good by giving them the compliment and making them feel good, but you're also going to feel good by receiving said compliments. So basically, let's normalize giving compliments again. Let's normalize making other people feel good about themselves. There's nothing wrong with that, guys. You're not going to blow their head up. You're not going to turn this good person into this tyrant. That you don't have that kind of power. You don't. Just give them the compliments, move on with your life, and feel good knowing that you made somebody else feel good today. So anyways, that's all I got for today. I appreciate you guys. And now that you know better, do better. Peace.